The topic of this presentation is how to get a .com.sg or .sg domain. Basically the domains with Singapore extension. Can anybody buy a Singapore domain? What are the restrictions and why there are such restrictions? What are the steps involved in getting the domain with .sg extension? And who are the authorized registrants? So basically this presentation will explain you all about getting a .sg domain. So let's proceed ahead and first understand what is a .sg or .com.sg domain. So any domain that has extension .com.sg or .sg, it indicates that the domain is registered in country Singapore. For example, your domain name may be mybusiness.com.sg or mybusiness.sg. So this .sg is a country level domain extension assigned to Singapore. So if your business is primarily focusing in Singapore, then you should get a .sg domain extension. If you are a multinational corporation with presence in many countries, then this may not be necessary. But generally, if your focus is Singapore, then getting a .sg domain extension is beneficial to you for various reasons, which I will be explaining in this presentation. Now this .sg actually includes many extensions, and those are as follows, which is .sg, .com.sg, which these two are very common for businesses. .org.sg, which is only for societies, registered societies. .edu.sg, which is for educational institutions. .gov.sg for government authorities. And .net.sg, which are for infocom companies related to networking businesses only. So one point I want to highlight here is when it comes to .com, .org or .net, the generic domains, anybody can buy any domain and put up a business. And there is no rule as to why somebody should take .net or .org. However, that is not so in Singapore. If you are a normal business and not a society, and if you try to register .org.sg, then that registration will get refused because there is an authority overseeing all this, and there is an authority in charge which is responsible for maintaining the clarity and a proper procedure in domain registration. So moving on to the next slide, what is so special about .sg domains? So the first thing is that only Singapore residents or businesses which are registered in Singapore or foreign businesses registered in Singapore can register a .sg domain. When the registration happens, identity of the owner is verified by an independent authority. And obviously, as I mentioned, there are rules relating to .org.sg, .net.sg which are followed. Now, because there is an authority overseeing all this, and because identity of owner and the registrar is verified in every case, .sg domain involved in fraud are extremely low. Nowadays there are a lot of electronic and web phishing frauds that go on. For example, they try to steal your identity. Then there can be some fraud sale of e-commerce product where a product is sold but nothing is delivered. So if you really see the percentage of .sg domains involved in this kind of frauds, it is really very, very low. In fact, .sg is considered to be one of the safest domain extension in the world. So .sg domains portray a very high trust factor. So at least in Singapore, if somebody sees .sg domain, they are generally confident about the people behind it. Whereas if you see some other domain extension like .ml or .tk, you might really get doubtful whether the people behind those are real and real businesses or not. So moving on to the next slide, which authority oversees .sg domain extension? So SGNIC.sg, which stands for Singapore Network Authority, is in charge for approving and monitoring .sg domains. So every time anybody tries to register the domain, the identity is verified by this agency, and SGNIC.sg also acts as overall in charge for any .sg domain. And if your domain gets compromised or gets any malware, officers from SGNIC.sg will call you to inform you about it and ask you to correct it. So generally they are very vigilant about this. And obviously the idea is to maintain the trust factor of .sg domains. So the next and a practical question is who can get it and what are the steps involved in getting a .sg domain approved and start using it. So as I mentioned to you, only Singapore residents or Singapore registered businesses are qualified for registering a Singapore domain, SG domain. If you are a foreigner and if you do not have any business in Singapore, you cannot register a .sg domain. That is not possible. When you register a .sg domain, you need to provide two specific pieces of information. First is who is a registering organization or who is a registrant. It must be either a resident of Singapore or a Singapore registered business. And you also have to provide an admin contact, and that admin contact must have Singapore NRIC. That means the admin contact must be a resident of Singapore. Now, when you provide these details, the authority automatically fires an email to this admin contact to approve the registration. And at that point of time, the person who is the admin contact is required to log in using his SingPass details and approve the registration. Only then the domain becomes live. So I'll show you here a sample email that I received few days back. So as you can see here, they are mentioning that the following domain name has come for the approval and you are specified as admin contact, administrative contact. So you need to verify your identity and approve the registration. And the details of the domain that is being registered are given below. So the next question is where can you register this domain? So first thing you have to ensure that you are either a resident or you have a Singapore based registered entity. Once you have this, any reputed domain registrar, example godaddy.com, can be used to register .sg domain. Now here I just want to highlight one thing. If you go to SGNIC website and if you go to domain registration and list of registrars, then you will come to this page and they have given some organizations as approved registrars. However, the list is not limited to these people only. You can use any reputed registration authority like GoDaddy and they will in turn connect these people through API and get it approved. If you select any of these registrars, then most likely you will end up having a very costly package. So in summary, .sg domains are available for Singapore residents and Singapore based businesses only. They are well regulated and the identity of registrant is always checked.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.